Welcome to First Level Training, the Firearms Education Center and School of Personal Defense. Today we're going to be talking about firearms awareness, being aware of your surroundings. What we'll cover today: how many guns are in the world, who carries a gun, active shooters and mass shooting statistics, firearm types, firearms history, a little bit about gun control, how to obtain a gun, and gun owner's responsibility. So let's get started. Okay, firearms awareness, being aware of your surroundings. How many guns are in the world? Well, there's approximately 870 million guns on the planet. 43% are in the US. Only 70 million are registered. The other 290 million are unregistered firearms, and they're on the streets. In the US, there are approximately 112.6 guns per 100 residents, which means there are more guns than people in the United States. Who carries a gun? Good guys. Police, law enforcement, security guards, FBI and DEA, detectives, hunters, SWAT teams, and military personnel. Who carries a gun? Bad guys. Well, robbers, burglars, and thieves, drug dealers and gang members, organized crime like the mob or the mafia, drug cartel, unauthorized personnel with unregistered firearms, and active shooters. Where and who do active shooters target? Active shooters target schools, churches or places of worship, malls, movie theaters, businesses, banks, post office, concerts and stadiums, or large gatherings. They're looking for soft targets. Mass shootings in 2019, from January to April 2019. There were 105 mass shooting events in the US. Of those shootings, 120 people were killed. 387 were wounded. Deadly mass shootings in the US in 2019, a map where they were. Virginia Beach, Beaumont, Texas, Odessa, Texas, El Paso, San Jose, Los Angeles and Palm Springs, and St. Louis, Aurora, and Dayton, just to name a few. The number of mass shootings across the US thus far in 2019 has outpaced the number of days this year, according to a gun violence research group. This puts 2019 on pace to be the first year since 2016 with an average of more than one mass shooting per day. As of September 1st, which was the 244th day of the year, there have been 283 mass shootings in the US, according to data from the nonprofit Gun Violence Archive, or GVA, which tracks every mass shooting in the country. The GVA defines a mass shooting as any incident which at least 4 people were shot, excluding the shooter. The total of 283 mass shootings includes several high-profile mass casualty attacks, 2 of which happened within 24 hours of each other. A drive-by shooting spree in Odessa and Midland, Texas on August 31st, with 7 people killed and 24 wounded. A shooting in a historic district of Dayton, Ohio on August 4th, with 9 people killed and 27 injured. A shooting at Walmart in El Paso, Texas on August 3rd, with 22 people killed and at least 24 wounded. It was the deadliest shooting of the year. Also a shooting in a municipal building in Virginia Beach on May 31st, where a former city employee killed 12 people and wounded 4. The last time the mass shooting toll topped days of the year was 2016, which had 382 mass shootings. the most in any year since the Gun Violence Archive started keeping track. The past 2 years came close with 346 shootings in 2017 and 340 in 2018. Mass shootings in 2018. In 2018, there were 340 mass shootings in the U.S. 387 people were killed, 1,274 people were injured. 3 were school shootings. In June alone, there were 52 mass shootings. 47 people were killed and 218 were injured, and that's almost 2 per day. We need to educate everyone. With the advent of the mass shooting epidemic since 1999, everyone needs to know how to handle a firearm, how to make a firearm non-functional or safe, how to unload, how to disable, how to field strip or take it apart, and how to shoot. Education is the key. Firearms education is the key to combat the current mass shooting epidemic. Knowing the mental status of a person or persons and taking the right steps to limit their access to firearms is essential. All of these shooters have parents, and those parents are ultimately responsible for the firearms in their household. So if a parent is suspect of their child's mental state and knows the child has access to a gun, it is their duty to dismantle the firearm and make it non-functional. So parents, you need to know about firearms and how they work. Types of firearms. Bolt action, lever action, pump action, semi-automatic action, hinged action or brake action, and falling block action. Long gun parts include the stock, the trigger and trigger guard, the safety, the magazine, the receiver, the bolt, front and rear sights, and the barrel. Semi-automatic pistol parts include the same. Also have a magazine, a trigger and trigger guard. Some have an external hammer and a firing pin. Front and rear sights, a barrel, and a magazine release. One trigger pull fires one shot on a semi-automatic pistol. Single action revolvers. The hammer must be cocked to fire one shot. Double action revolvers. One trigger pull cocks the hammer and fires the gun. How many guns are sold each year? In total, there have been 7,043,975 background checks performed in 2018. It is important to note also that 40% of gun sales are not subject to background checks, like at some gun shows. Thus, the number of guns sold so far this year is likely much higher. Which countries have the most guns per capita? Well, the U.S. tops the list at 112.6 guns per 100 residents. Siberia comes in second with 75.6, then Yemen with 54.8, and Switzerland with 45.7. How many guns can you own? Well, there's no federal legal limit to how many guns a person can own in America. There really isn't a point to such a limit, as one person can only use one gun at a time. So having multiple guns does not make them any more dangerous. However, different guns are used for different purposes. How many guns are made each year? According to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, U.S. gun makers produced nearly 11 million guns in 2013, the year after the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. That's twice as many as were made in 2010. Firearms history, a gun timeline. Historical timeline of the development of modern weapons starting at 1364 with the first recorded use of a firearm. The late 15th century, the Ottoman Empire used firearms as a part of its regular infantry. The 1860s, the first successful rapid firearm is the Gatling gun, invented by Richard Gatling and fielded by the Union forces during the American Civil War in the 1860s. 1884, the world's first self-loading firearm was the Maxim gun, developed by British inventor Sir Hiram Maxim in 1884, capable of firing 600 rounds per minute. Who invented the first pistol? The first pistol was designed in 1846 as a collaboration between Captain Samuel Hamilton Walker and American firearms inventor Samuel Colt. The 1847 Colt Walker was the largest and most powerful black powder repeating handgun ever made. Bearing arms, the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." It is evident more than ever that people need to be aware of firearms all around them to secure a free environment where people can go about their lives without fear of attack. Gun control. Gun control legal definition. Gun control, or firearms regulation, is the set of laws that regulate the manufacture, sale, transfer, possession, modification, or use of firearms by civilians. Most countries have a restrictive firearm policy, with only a few legislations being categorized as permissive. Now, where does it say education? How can you control something without education? Especially when it comes to firearms and firearms safety. This needs to change. It's our responsibility to educate ourselves, our family, and our friends. So gun legislation needs to include education in its category, in its definition. Firearms safety. We teach our kids about a lot of things. The dangers of fire, drugs, strangers, drowning, and more, but not about guns. Firearms safety is a basic fundamental that should be taught at an early age. The earlier the better, so as not to be taboo or something we just don't talk about. Let's change that. Firearms awareness is necessary to reduce the amount of violent gun massacres happening not just in the U.S., but throughout the world. Shooting sports. What are some forms of shooting activities? Well, there's hunting and target shooting, trap and skeet shooting, IPSC, which is the International Practical Shooting Confederation, part of competition shooting, and IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. What else do we use guns for? Well, we use them to defend our country in the military, for law and order, like local and state law enforcement, for self-defense, for recreation, or hobby and collecting, for hunting, and to exercise our Second Amendment rights. Questions to ask yourself. Do I have the temperament to use and own a firearm? Do I accept the responsibility of owning a firearm, i.e., education and training? Are you willing to accept the repercussion of using a firearm for self-defense? And can I make the decision of when not to shoot in a defensive situation? Local and state laws regarding firearms use. Not knowing the law is no excuse. If you break the law, there are very strong penalties pertaining to the use and transportation of firearms. Know all local and state laws regarding the handling and transportation of your firearm. Know the laws of transporting your firearms across state lines. Every state is different. Get the advice of an attorney on gun laws in your state. How to obtain a firearms permit. The steps to obtaining a firearms permit can be found on the state police website. There are many forms to fill out and you will be fingerprinted. A background check will be performed, and if you have any priors, it will come up on your request and possibly be denied. How to obtain a permit to purchase a handgun. After acquiring your firearms permit or license, you need to obtain another permit to purchase a handgun. See your local police department for the proper forms. Some of them have these online. A background check will be performed again, and it will take a few weeks to receive the proper paperwork to buy a handgun. Upon the purchase of your handgun, another background check will be performed by the selling dealer. Gun owner's responsibilities. It is the gun owner's responsibility to store, operate, and maintain his or her guns safely. It is also the gun owner's responsibility to ensure that any unauthorized or untrained individuals cannot gain access to his or her firearms. And it is the gun owner's responsibility to learn and follow all applicable laws that pertain to the purchase, possession, and use of guns in his or her jurisdiction. When people practice responsible gun ownership and follow all gun safety rules, guns are safe. First level training, the Firearms Education Center, and School of Personal Defense. Thank you for your participation. I hope you found this informative and educational. Thanks again.